Hello, everybody. I'm Jane Hansen. This week in the arena, the allure of spiritual and supernatural power on young people. It's especially strong since they see it depicted so often in films, television, and even in the books that they read for entertainment. What should a parent do if their child is dabbling in witchcraft, playing with Ouija boards, or participating in other pagan rituals with friends or schoolmates? Are these really harmful and dangerous activities, or in actuality, are they nothing at all to worry about? Joining us now to discuss, Monsignor Kieran Harrington, the Director of Communications for the Diocese of Brooklyn, and our regular contributors, Elizabeth Scalia, Managing Editor of the Catholic portal at Pathos.com, and Grant Gallicho, the Associate Editor of Commonweal magazine. And then via Skype, our special guest from Georgia, Star Foster, the Managing Editor of the Pagan portal at Pathos.com. So let's begin, and I'm going to start right off with you, Star. Tell us and describe for us exactly what is a pagan.
Well, that's an interesting question because it's actually a collective of very diverse religious faiths. I think it's fair to say that pagans are people who are reviving and reconstructing the native religions of Europe, for the most part. You have people who are reconstructing the original religion of Rome and the religion of Greece and the religion of Ireland.
I'm a little confused by that. So you say they're reconstructing religion. Does that mean that pagans do believe in a god?
Actually, we believe in many gods. We are polytheist. There are a few monotheists among us, but for the most part, we're polytheists. We believe in many gods, and we believe that all paths to the divine, however you define that, are valid.
Well, so what Star is the motivation? Like, what was the sort of the emptiness that kind of would require people to say, you know what, the current religions, the great monotheistic religions of Judaism, Islam, Christianity, don't sort of satisfy us. We're not kind of really interested in sort of the philosophy of Buddhism. So what kind of motivates someone to say, let's kind of rediscover what were the religions of ancient Europe or the East?
Right, excellent. The main motivation, I think, is that people view monotheism as being restricting. You're taking all of the amazing power of the universe.
Wait, Star,
and you're
just
one
moment. Can you just take the word monotheism and just define that for our audience? What you're talking about is one God versus many gods, correct?
Right.
Okay, continue then.
Right. So you're taking all of the majesty and the might of the universe, and you're placing it in one box. And that's a hard thing to contain, and it's a hard thing to understand. And people don't often find that they can connect with that. That for them it makes more sense that just as you know many people in your life, and that you know many different geographic regions in your life, that you would also know many gods.
Okay, so is the notion of God then much more anthropomorphic in that, gods, obviously if there are more than one God, then some gods are relatively more powerful than other gods, and, kinder, better, some gods are good gods, other gods are bad gods, that sort of thing?
Yes, we don't perceive evil the same way that you do. So the whole good bad argument doesn't really apply. People are different, but not necessarily on a good bad valuation.
So does that mean you don't have anything like commandments? You don't have any rules that you follow? I'm a little confused about how do you define what's being a good person or an honest person, or what is that?
Right. Different pagan faiths have different moral codes. Asatru has the 9 noble virtues, which has things like loyalty and steadfastness, honor and bravery. And the Greeks have the Delphic maxims.
Why follow any one of these codes? I mean, if there are multiple gods, why is one bound to one code or another? I mean, what difference does it make?
Well, because to interact with the universe and to interact with your community, you have to follow a moral code. You have to follow an ethical code in order to work together.
Why can't you make it up yourself instead of following something someone else proposes, some other god proposes?
Well, you certainly can. You certainly can, but it's going to make your interactions with the people around you more difficult. You know, people who who do develop their own code and don't feel bound by any code don't tend to find that they're able to interact as well with others.
Huh. Elizabeth, you want to jump in here?
Star, I was just wondering, we live in a very relativistic age, and I'm wondering if that plays into the attraction on some level. You were saying earlier that you have a different perception of good and bad, and we're living in an era where people define truth very personally instead of absolutely. Do you think that plays into the attraction that perhaps even you felt going into this?
Well, it does to some degree. It does to some degree. People who enter pagan religions tend to reject the culture around them to some degree, and they feel that they need to delve deep, and they need to re-examine what these major questions in life actually mean to them. And paganism does provide a very safe place for people to do that.
It does provide a safe space? Is that what you just said that, right? Safe space? Okay, I just want to know about your background. Did you grow up Christian, or what got you from what you were raised at to where you are now?
Certainly. I was raised Southern Baptist. My father was an associate pastor at our church. I was a very religious teenager. And as I went into my teens, I became very concerned with my role in the church as a woman. And in my studies, I ran across Wicca, which is one of the pagan religions. And it felt like a homecoming because it's very supportive of being a woman, of femininity, of feminine leadership. And that's one thing that is definitely a big attraction to people who come to paganism, is that if you are a woman or if you're a gay man, then you are embraced, and that there are leadership opportunities for you, that there you find that you have a more embracing community if you are interested in, if you're very devout.
Star, does that mean when you talk about Wicca that you are a witch?
Yes.
And how do you define, how do you come to know that? Is it like a calling like a priest has?
I believe so. It's very integral to what I do, to my soul, to my spiritual path.
Okay.
To be a witch is to change consciousness according to will. It's deep soul work.
But does that mean, our image of somebody who's a witch is stirring the pot, and of course what happened 200, 300 years ago in this country. So today, tell me what it is that defines being a witch. You talked about soul searching, but I'm curious about what is it? Do you lead other people? Do you have, what's this particular calling?
Right. Well, no, I'm not a leader or a teacher. I work with Pathios, but I'm actually a student and a member of a larger group. My church is in the Ravenwood tradition, and I have a priestess and a priest that I answer to. So I'm not a leader of any sort. My calling is to serve a service to my community. Okay, so what defines me as a witch is that I do believe that not only are the gods capable of interceding for me, but also that I am capable of making change happen according to my own will, in accordance with the gods.
Yeah, you know what? This is my impression, and maybe this is a bias that comes from a perspective of a Catholic priest. But basically, what I hear you saying is people are very alienated for whatever reason in terms of their life, and because of this sense of alienation, there's a sense of wanting something more in their life, and because they feel alienated and they want something more, there's some ritualizing of things that because people need ritual, so they sort of ritualize things, and really it's a projection of one's. It's just a projection of a lot of different emotions.
But they're very different traditions that make up paganism as a whole. So each one has its own individual structure.
Okay, so Star, I want you to hold that thought about the structure, because we've got to take a break. And when we come back, we will continue this discussion.
Sure.
And we're going to get Grant and Elizabeth involved in discussing this whole concept. We want to remind you that you can weigh in on our discussion anytime by going to our website, netny.net, and click on Enter the Arena. We always welcome your questions and your comments, and we'll be back with more of this discussion in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue our discussion on pagans, Wicca, and voodoo. We are again joined by our special guest via Skype from Georgia, Star Foster, the managing editor of the pagan portal at pathos.com. We've been talking with Star about exactly what comprises paganism and have discussed the fact that she's a witch. I know, Grant, you've got some questions.
Yeah, Star, maybe you can just give our viewers a sense of how many Wiccans there are. What the baseline, when you're walking around a mall, what are the chances you're going to bump into a witch?
According to the most recent religious surveys, we believe that the conservative figure of pagans in the United States is around 1 million. That has grown incredibly since 2000, when the estimate was 100,000.
And how do you measure that? I mean, are there it's not, obviously there aren't parishes where there are rolls and people can study how many people go to a certain place to practice this, but how do you know?
Right, but in religious surveys of the United States, people have started counting pagans.
Why do you think there's been such an increase, Star?
I think that there is a general dissatisfaction with the status quo in a lot of things, and we're seeing that in politics and religion lately. And paganism is something that provides something new and yet something very old at the same time. So people who embrace paganism feel that they are not only finding something new that they can explore, but also that they are connecting with their ancestors.
Yeah, but how often do you tell people that you are a witch? It has to be kind of a private setting, doesn't it? It's not. I'm just curious on what the reaction is.
Well, I'm actually very public about it. So pretty much everyone I know, my friends, my family, my acquaintances are aware. And most of them, it's a non-issue. It's as if I said that I was Catholic or if I said I was Mormon. My family, they're not quite certain about it. But no, on the whole, I've been received with a lot of support.
As a Southern Baptist, I mean, your family is they're active Southern Baptist. I mean, basically, yes. And you said your father's a pastor. So, I mean, part of the conflict I would imagine at home is your father's got to believe that by rejecting Christ, you have put yourself on the path of damnation.
My father has passed, but my mother does definitely feel that way. But she loves me, and I love her, and we have had to agree to disagree. And the same with my sister. My sister is an evangelical missionary. She's teaching over in Indonesia right now. We disagree with each other, but we love each other very much.
Star, is there any lasting Christian shadow to your belief system?
That's an interesting thing because conversion is a process. It doesn't happen all at once. So I've been identifying as pagan and practicing and worshiping as pagan for over 10 years now. And I have only in the last couple of years been able to say that I can no longer see from a Christian perspective, which has been interesting because for a while I could sort of see from both perspectives. So I think for people who do convert, I think that there is a shadow period where people are working out why they believe this and why they don't believe that.
Now, did you ever identify yourself as having been saved?
Yes. I've actually been baptized twice.
Okay, so when you had been baptized, I'm curious, like, you identify a moment when you were saved, right?
Right.
So can you talk to us about the moment that you identified when you were saved and how that is different, that led you to reject, basically, Christ?
Right. Well, I don't view it I can't speak for all pagans in that regard. I don't view it as rejecting him. I tend to say that I invited him into my heart, and he hasn't complained about his roommates yet. When I was 7, actually, I answered the altar call, and I will admit that it was a very calculated sort of thing. I sort of understood what the minister was saying, and at the time I didn't see any downside to not answering the altar call.
Okay.
So it was never a terribly religious moment for me.
Are you saying it was never a true spiritual engagement?
No, I don't feel it was. I have a lot of love and respect for Jesus. I did invite him to my heart once, but I am a lot more ambivalent about his father.
Star, how do you worship?
Well, we meet for 8 festivals a year and once a month when the moon is full. And we have a standard liturgy and a standard liturgical year, at least for my tradition. We meet together, we create our sacred space, which is similar to opening Mass. And we honor our gods, and we honor the spirits of the land.
Do you do this? You do this outdoors? Is that what?
We do, unless it's just terribly cold or very rainy.
Yeah.
Right. And so we honor our gods, we honor the spirits of the land and our ancestors. And we talk about the spiritual work that accompanies the particular time of the year. Right now is spring. It's all about new growth, new plans, and new vision.
Okay, Star, can I ask you, and I don't know, I don't think we planned on getting into so much of your personal life, so I hope that didn't make you uncomfortable.
No problem.
But I'm kind of wondering, we're seeing, I think a lot of parents are seeing their kids drift into this or look at this, and I know that you live your Wiccan life in a very ethical way.
Right.
But I am wondering, when you see kids drifting into this, and it has a lot to do with pop culture influence more than anything,
right.
You know, what is your feeling then as a Wiccan, with the strong ethics that I know you possess? Do you say to somebody who may be drifting into it, basically in the same manner that you drifted into Christianity without that full spiritual engagement, do you say to them, you know, maybe this isn't for you, and maybe you're not fully, you know, maybe you're just kind of attracted to a superficial here?
Well, if someone is interested in joining a group, like I am a member of a pagan church, a pagan coven, if you're interested in joining a group, that there is a period where the priest and priestess will sit down with you, and they will see if you're seriously interested in learning. And then there's a series of classes, probably not unlike your catechism for young people, where you learn about the tradition and you learn about the faith. And usually if people are not serious, they simply stop coming to class.
But you know what I find kind of fascinating is that you're speaking about a catechism or some, and it seems to me that there's basically
religion.
Yeah, well, there's a rejection of sort of truth on one level, or a universal truth, and then there is the kind of this particular type of way in which there is truth for you.
Well, right, but we don't see truth as something that any one person can hold or any one religion can hold.
Star, I'm curious. So when in this worship process, are there things like seances, or do you talk to demons? I mean, walk me. I'm trying to understand what it is that you do in your worship process.
Right, demons and Satan and the devil and those sorts of things are Christian things, and that's not part of what we do. We embrace the gods of the older religions, the Greek pantheon, Zeus, Hera, Hestia. These are what we interact with, and these are who we talk to and who we speak to. And we have deep personal relationships with these gods. In the same way you might have a personal relationship with Jesus, I have a personal relationship with Hephaestus, who is the Greek god of blacksmithing.
And you pray to them?
Yes.
Okay. So I know we've only got about a minute left here, but I know there are many different, you talk about being part of the Ravenwood movement. There are many different other names to different kinds of parts of paganism. Are they all similar? And I know honestly, if you can answer this quickly, are they all similar in what regard?
I would say that they're similar in the belief that there is no one true religion or one true God. And I would say that they are similar in the belief that everyone has the right to practice religion as they choose, that religious freedom is a basic human right.
Well, Star, thank you very much for bringing us this information.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, bye, Star. Before we take a break, I just want to know, what does the Bible say about witchcraft?
Well, I think that it's clear if you take a look at in both Galatians and Acts of the Apostles, you see a real repudiation of sorcery. So I think that there's no question that what we believe is there is an encounter with the one God, who is Jesus Christ, and we wouldn't engage in conjuring up the assistance of those who are dead, other gods, because we believe there is one God. And this one God has a Son, Jesus Christ, and He's the one who saved us. So I think you can, if you take a look at the Scriptures, it's really excludes any dabbling in the occult.
Whoa! All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap things up. We'll be back with more from our discussion, so do stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing our conversations on pagans, Wicca, and voodoo, we are joined once again by Monsignor Kieran Harrington, the Director of Communications for the Diocese of Brooklyn, and our regular contributors, Elizabeth Scalia, Managing Editor of the Catholic Portal at Pathos.com, and Grant Gallicho, Associate Editor of Commonweal magazine. So, Elizabeth, I do think that it's interesting. Star just talked about the feminist viewpoint and the gay viewpoint, people who can frequently feel excluded from the Catholic Church and other religions. So that really struck me.
You know what? I have a friend who is, she's a transsexual. She's a Lutheran and a very strict Lutheran. She's also transsexual. And when we were talking to Star about her family's reaction to what she's undertaken, I kind of got the same sense when she said her father's made peace with it, and her father is a pastor, and we have very clear scriptural references about this. I think it comes down, there comes a point where we just say, okay, you know what, I have this thing and I really do believe it, but I know God is bigger than everything else. I'm going to just kind of, you're on your journey, and I'm going to trust that it all works out in the end. And I wonder if that's kind of where her father is. I know it's where I am with a lot of people.
I think, Elizabeth, it seems to me pretty clear that when people make this kind of step, there is some deep alienation that is taking place in their life, and that's what you really. What I think it is. What's interesting to me is that Starr kind of indicated that there are about 1 million Wiccans or something like that. You know,
Pagan,
to me, pagans. I think that what brings people to that place is a real sense of alienation,
A disconnect.
Yeah, and that's really the shame of it for us as Christians, because here's the thing: is we